and welcome back to Kohler Commentary. Today, I am joined by my college best friend, Stephanie Kim, who you might know today as the creative content powerhouse behind Trasuni. Hi, Steph.
Wow, thank you for the intro.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I didn't know you'd call me a powerhouse.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, ChatGPT.
You're well known in the online world,
ChatGPT
you know.
knows who I am.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
exactly. You know that the last time we did a Just You and Me episode, I got a lot of feedback about how they really enjoyed it. Not because of necessarily the content itself, but just our friendship dynamic.
Yeah, like our repertoire, our riffing.
What's riffing?
Riffing? You don't know what riffing is? Riffing is like...
Like, I'm assuming it's like banter.
Yes, bantering, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got some good riffing.
Yeah. We do. It's a little dry right now, so let's give ourselves 5 minutes before we scratch it.
I'm actually very nervous.
Why?
Because I personally, you might not like me saying this, but I avoid listening when I'm on there. Like, I don't listen to the episodes with me. I listen to the other people's because you're a good talker.
You are too.
No, I'm a good talker, but I'm not a good eloquent speaker. I say a lot of likes.
Well, I edit those.
Okay, well, one time I listened and you didn't edit those.
Well, that's probably because you had spoken like 10 times that amount.
Okay, yeah. Exactly. So it really embarrasses me. So today I'm going to talk very slow.
Okay.
And be mindful and try to be a very
demure guest.
Demure, eloquent speaker who doesn't say and like.
Okay. But also, you know what is actually as like on the editing side, as much as you are mindful of the likes and the when you talk slowly and you pause to try to think of your words like that, that's actually more annoying because I have to edit out all those gaps and that's actually really difficult for me. So just FYI, as you are trying to be aware, just do it perfectly, okay?
Hey, can I ask, does Hannah do that?
Hannah, I don't know. I interviewed her in a while.
Oh, okay. I was just very curious because Hannah's so good at speaking. That was one of her strategies she gave me was like, just take your time.
Well,
think before you say the word. I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
Another Enneagram 3 does that. I don't think it's a trend amongst the Enneagram 3ers, but, you know, since they both are, maybe that is what it is.
Oh, I'm sorry to sidetrack, but...
No, that's our riffing, so
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Why are you here, Steph?
Oh. In Dallas?
Yeah. Wait.
I mean, like, at this house or in this world? Okay, well, I'm in Dallas because I'm going to see my sister in Austin this weekend, but I wanted to spend time with my grandparents before driving down.
Some context for Steph is that I think she frequents Dallas quite often because her family's here. And if you do follow her content, family is such an important part of her life.
Yes.
And I thought I was as well.
Yes.
But
lower on the totem pole.
Of course. But there came a time where I was like, I see her on social media. I see her husband posting that they're hanging out, you know, I'm friends with their friends. So hello, you can hit me up as well. So I wonder like if people that are listening also have that problem. If there is one friend that expects a phone call every time, you know, or like a hit up, as they may say. However, recently I did say, I don't need you to hang out with me. You know, like if you're busy, because like you said, your totem pole of family is very high, but I need you to tell me you're here. I realized I need to know.
Wait, so what does it feel like whenever you open Instagram, you see someone's story and you're like, wait, is she here? Or my story?
You, yeah, because for the most part.
It's me. I will let you know. I haven't let you know.
Yeah, but the thing is like you're one of my closer friends, you know, but then you don't reach out. But then like other people reach out. And so it's very confusing internally for me in that way. But like I also know how many family members you have here. And it's not just your side, but then Hunter's side and all of that. So over the years, which I only moved here 2 years ago. So albeit it might not have been in that scenario, but over the years, I have learned not to be like sad about it, but more so, hey, this is me. I just need to know so that I'm okay. You're in town. Yay. Can't meet. That's okay. You know, I totally respect that.
You know, we might cover this topic later, but if not, you know, let me just go ahead and say I'm in this season of realizing just not a very good friend. I'm really not. If I have a friend, that means our relationship has sustained because of them. Like, and I'm not proud of it. It's very shameful, but it takes a lot of work for me to be I feel like some people, being a good friend is like, they don't even have to think about it. Does that make sense? I feel like you're kind of like that, where...
Well, also though, like...
It's just second nature for you.
Maybe. Would you say you're a good...
I'm gonna buy you something like... that doesn't work for me. Like, I have to like exercise this muscle.
Yeah.
Holding a plank and being like, okay, because I have to be a good friend. Like, I have to be very conscious about it.
But I think you're often one of people's like best friends, even though you do have that problem.
Don't you think it's because
you're
I
just
kind of funny?
Sorry, say it again. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I can be kind of funny. You know, I make people laugh.
But that's something that also brings value. You know, we all have strengths in different ways.
Yeah.
And you are just joy in general.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being my friend.
Yeah.
Even though I agree, I should reach out to you, and then you text me. You're like, are you here? I'm like, oh crap.
And the thing is, like, I feel like I give you a lot of grace because it's not like we talk on the phone. It's not like we text when we're apart. We're not long distance friends. We're both not good at that. Yeah. You don't call when you're here. Then I'm like, wait a second. Sorry, I laid down the law.
Yeah,
thank you for responding with that.
But I appreciate the grace and the love. You don't really get mad at me, because if you really got mad at me, I really might start avoiding you. I'd be like, oh crap, I can't post anymore. I have friends who are gonna get mad at me. But now I'm just like, Angie loves me with all my flaws.
I do.
And I love you too.
Thank you.
With your 0 flaws as a friend.
I don't know about that, but let's just take it. Let's just receive that. So I invited you on because I wanted to talk about this topic a while ago with you, and I don't really know how it's going to go per se, but if you've also been looking at some of Steph's content on social media, sometimes she does these series where she gets a word in Korean and then she kind of explains how it could be used in many different ways. So it's like, 네, but then it could be like, 네, whatever, you know, all those things. And like, it brings a lot of like understanding to one word that carries many different meanings. And I think something that I wanted to talk about today was the word 아까워. Do you know what that means?
Yes. I guess the most plain definition is when something's wasteful. Yeah.
So it could be like 아까워 in terms of your food, you know, like money spent or whatever. But I think it holds a lot of different connotations. So 아까워 would be hard to really like explain, just like other words like 정 or 한 or all these things. But it is a rich emotional meaning that can, one, be wasteful, right? But when you think of wasteful, you would literally think of wasting something tangible. And it can also come to feelings of regret, missed opportunities, or something that might be precious to lose. So when you talk about it in that lens, it's so much deeper, right? Yeah. And so I feel like ways, one, that I wanted to ask is like how we might have seen that concept of waste or 아까워 being used by our parents maybe growing up first, because that's how we basically took in this term, right?
Yeah. So when you told me this was the prompt for what you wanted to talk about, at first I was like, okay, do you want me to say what the word means? And I actually didn't realize the depth of the word, to be honest with you, till I let it stew for a little bit. I was like, whoa, you're right. There are a lot of connotations that, and actually probably impacts Korean culture a lot. Because, for example, I don't think with my American or non-Korean friends, I've ever used the word wasteful. I've probably said, I don't know, a few times a year.
Right.
In a Korean household, you'll say 아까워 daily, or the parents will, at least, for any type of connotation or any situation, which is, to your point, it doesn't just mean like tangibly wasteful things.
Right.
So I had to think about that. I was like, whoa, there is a difference there, because 아까워 is said all the time by our parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we talk about how maybe it affects us today, which I think is different from our parents, right?
Yeah.
But for our parents, at least for me, I can speak on my experiences. 아까워 was like, if we have food we're eating and I 냉겨, left some, 아까워, you know, like whether it's 아까워 that the food is left over, whether it's 아까워 that my mom who made this food, you know, like we're not fully enjoying it maybe, but there was that 아까워. So I grew up never wasting food, you know. And I also have a lot of indigestion problems today. So interesting.
You definitely carried that, not more, but probably above average.
Right.
Because of the Korean household thing.
Right.
Yeah. Into like your college days.
Yeah. I was always I'm still trying to really actively unlearn not eating my full full plate, which is like, it pains me.
Yeah.
And then 아까워 also with like 돈, money, 돈이 아까워, you know, like if you didn't buy it on sale, 아까워, because like, I don't know what exactly is an example of that one for me growing up.
I didn't think of that one.
Yeah. Oh, what did you think about?
I thought of a random one where it's like, this is such a weird example. I really think Korean people would also use it in the sense of if you see a really pretty girl with an ugly guy, they're like, 여자가 너무 아까워.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Adults use that phrase all the time. If they see a couple or the guy is really a great catch and they think the girl is kind of weird. The guy's so 아까워.
Yeah.
He could have, done
so
better.
I guess to translate, that would be saying that they are out of your league. And so in that sense, that is a waste of
your league.
Yeah.
Because you're waste of your potential.
Right. Like settling in a way or whatnot.
And you would never use that word waste for a couple.
Because it's like, you're not saying what a waste of a human, right? That's not what you're saying.
Yeah.
But that's the word that you would use. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. There's probably so many that you and I can't even think about right now.
Yeah. So I think like in that though, well, how do you think, did your parents use that word a lot growing up?
Really similar to you too,
okay.
About food and money for sure. Probably very common for Korean homes.
I mean, especially like with their stories of immigrating and like really having to be resourceful, maximize what they have and use it not just for that day, but for the days to come as well. So that mindset is really aligned with that word. But like you said, it's also a concept of people and whatnot. So I'd be curious, and I think it was because we had this conversation maybe a year ago of how your time was 아까워, or like right now with even this job or other things. And so I think that's when I was like, I want to talk to Steph about this topic, whether it's within the content creating world, but also just in general with how we translate that word into our lives today. Because I think while, yes, the food thing is very 아까워 for me today, I am aware of that one. And I will like actively not get mad about wasting food because I know it's better. Like I know right now our situation is not the same as our parents were or our grandparents were, where we can afford to watch out for our health in certain ways and not necessarily have to like 처먹어 or eat it all just because that is
You literally don't have to stuff yourself to where you get indigestion.
Exactly. Thank you. I heard you.
I looked into your soul as I was saying that.
So what do you think might be certain ways that comes up for you?
I think it's relevant exactly to what you said about my job right now. Because for those of you that don't know, I come from a corporate background and I worked a 9 to 5. Most of the time, I think I was pretty good about closing the laptop and saying, okay, it's the weekend now, it's good. So the boundary was pretty clear. I think for a lot of salary people, it usually is, hopefully. But this job is not clear. Identity-wise, people ask, oh, your pseudonym or whatever, content page name is Tresuni, your name is Stephanie. Is there a separation identity-wise? I'm like, I don't know. And then even in my life, oh, do you try not to include your family or friends who prefer to be private and off screen? Or do you want to show more of your personal life and your day-to-day like a lot of other content creators do? Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not sure. So the lines are already blurred, and then the time. So for me, like this started as a passion project, as a hobby when I quit my job, but then it became an income source and my full-time job. So now every hour is 아까워 for me, because if I'm not working, I could be. At the end of the day, if I'm getting a salary, sure, I might get a bigger bonus, but that time is still the 9 to 5. Here, technically, I could be working around the clock and maybe it would produce more financial gain, more following, more views. I don't know.
Right.
I really think it could, to be honest. So that's always there. And it's weird because then it starts this cycle of I end up becoming less productive sometimes because I feel so guilty. So and then I can't even think of a good idea or an idea that I'm excited about. And then it makes me less productive. So thinking of waste, thinking of, oh my gosh, I should be using this time. I don't work a 9 to 5. Why can't I work on this Saturday for hours and do this? And yeah, that's been a learning curve this year and a struggle for me, for sure.
I think something I'm hearing then is also that for you, 아까워, that word is often tied to, is it boundaries or expectations or something like that. Like,
I think it's tied to
limitless,
maximizing every potential, which probably isn't the healthiest mindset. And I really do think it is kind of a Korean mindset.
Yeah.
Like, you have time? Okay, you better use that time.
Yeah.
Oh, you have money? Okay, you gotta save that money or use that money to make more money.
Yeah.
Or you have food? Okay, it just, there's a sale, there's... Everything is maximized.
Right.
Oh, you're really pretty? You better get a really, really good... I don't know. Whatever. It just... Anything that's you're able to gain, you should gain it.
Yeah.
And that probably leads to burnout, which is why so much of Korea working culture is exhausting. And
it makes sense because you're also an Enneagram 7, right? And so that kind of like maximizing of opportunities or like an opportunist in certain ways. And like that limitless possibility is exciting.
Yeah.
But then, right, if you're also constantly trying to create those things and then there's no end to that, it's not like it's like a jab at you in the sense, but it's like it's so draining because you never know when the limit ends. And so then you're constantly maximizing, which also then comes to our culture, right? And like what you were saying of that mindset.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
And, you know, as you were talking too, it reminds me, like, my husband and I don't have kids right now. And we probably want kids in the future. And that being said, if we don't have kids now, I'm like, okay, we got to do everything. We got to go everywhere. And
especially when we're telling you in your ear, just you wait, you know?
Yeah. All my parent friends are encouraging that. But it's also in the head of this time is so akao.
Yeah,
because,
it is.
oh my gosh, and there's kids in the future that blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I don't know if that's healthy either because then I feel like I have to. Maybe I'm okay kind of chilling for a little bit. But this aspect of our culture tells us it's not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then as you are redefining this, right, like how do you then, because you're telling me what then feeds into guilt, or you're telling me like, you know, what those feelings come with, how do you combat it, or how do you not dwell in that akawo mindset?
Yeah, can you tell me how to do that, please?
Ma'am, every day, like you said, it's used daily. Mine is probably used hourly. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
I cannot tell you.
I mean, I can't even imagine your time management, especially with 2 kids. Yeah.
I don't even know. I can't even blame it on the kids anymore.
Yeah.
I think for me as an Enneagram 2, I think it's tied to a feeling of lack as well, of like, not enough, right? Like, I think that's a big word maybe within the unhealth of an Enneagram 2 is maybe not feeling good enough or kind of like this lack. I don't know how to explain it maybe if you're listening.
Does it translate? Does this correlate back to Akko?
Yeah.
Or is this
like, I think when I think of it, I'm like, it's kind of the same thing where it's like the maximizing, right? So it's like if you're not at that maximum, then everything until then is just lack, is how I feel. Does that make sense? And so like, even though I know that this life is a privilege and a blessing and all these things, I think because I see certain routes that people have taken, or maybe they have used their time to the fullest or whatever, but I've learned what I could have done before I became a mom. But I only learned that once I became a mom, that I'm always living in this like disconnect of, like that was so akawa. I wish I like didn't do it that way or something, you know? So I think it's like kind of releasing that in itself. Like for me, it's like akawa that I didn't choose a job that had good maternity leave or benefits for women. And like, I would never have thought of that in college, right? Like I was just like teaching passion or like healthcare, whatever. Like I worked in education and healthcare, and those are 2 areas that just don't set up women for success when they have a baby in terms of like leave and stuff like that, like just financially, which is huge in our economy today, right? And it's just like constantly this thing where it's like, I should have majored in this, or I shouldn't have gone into TFA. I should have just done the regular route. And like long term, it would have been, and not that it would have been easier because every journey is hard to becoming a mom. But I think when I think of my specific journey, I wish I listened a little less to my heart feeling about a job, and also just like practically what would make sense long term, because I definitely knew kids were something I would want to pursue in a family in that area. But that's like a big akawa, you know, for me.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I had started content earlier, I would be maybe making more money or be more successful right now. So I think about that actually. Yeah.
So then with that, when it comes in your head, does it affect you more than the second, or like you let yourself feel it and then like release it back?
It depends on the day. So on the day where I'm feeling like I'm failing, my videos aren't doing well, or they haven't been doing well, or they did better before, I'm like, see, if I had started this 5-10 years ago, but no, like I was the good Asian daughter. My parents told me, you got to get a corporate job. You got to blah, blah, blah. So those days it affects me more for sure. And I ponder on, dang, what if I had? But on a good day, like you said, even if it comes to mind, I'm able to release it. So I think it just depends on the day for me.
For you right now, since content creating is your actual job, this is like a side question, but as an Enneagram 7, like you were in project management and you were really climbing in that field as well. So like, what would you say if you were to compare the two jobs would have been pros and cons for each for you? This is really random. Just like what pops into your mind.
Yeah. Honestly, now that I've been doing this close to 2 years now, I know. I miss the corporate job because right now I work alone. I'm still I would consider myself a mid-sized creator. It's not like I have a team. I actually just recently got help for editing. Wow. And yeah, so that was huge. And even them, she's remote. So it's the interaction's not super frequent. I miss the teamwork, the collaboration. I think, naturally a little bit more extroverted. Yeah. So I miss that aspect, which I honestly thought I wouldn't. Yeah. There is a lot of cons that come from that too, and a lot of stress. But I miss that. I do. And I didn't think I would. And then I've gained a lot because if anyone knows, and you know this about me, I'm very type B. I'm not very organized. Like, I do everything last minute. I'm late to a lot of things.
But for work, you're really...
It bled a little bit. So I think I'm a little better now. Even though I don't really have to be that responsible right now. But it changed me a little bit over my 20s. Because for sure, my college years, I think I remember Eunji had to like take care of my schedule a couple times. She said, Steph, don't forget. She would like remind me the times, blah, blah. You would ask Eunji how much money she has. She knows exactly like how much she has. I'd be like, I don't know, I need to check. I'd be like -$5 in my bank account. My parents would call me. Being a project manager made me a lot more detail oriented, made me a little bit more type A, and helped, I think, my personal life. Like, okay, how to budget, how to do this. That was really helpful.
I agree. Because I was so impressed when you were talking about like budgeting and stuff. And I think that's like, I guess that's even a word of akao. It's like, I missed out on your adulting years. Like, while we were always friends and we'll always be there for each other, because that comes with certain things that you won't see in a college friend, right? College friends, like carefree life, you know? Like, oh, you got -5 and you don't care? Okay.
I'm like, oh, crap. Oh, well, I'll figure it out tomorrow.
Right. But then, like, I think when we would catch up and over those times, you did show this, like...
Oh, you kind of noticed that I was better.
I was like, you talked about budgeting a lot. And I'm like, who are you? And then you would start cooking, even before your content, right? You were cooking. And I was a little mad. I was like, 아까워 that I didn't become Steph's friend in adulting years, because in college, who was cooking for who? No,
Eunji cooked a lot in college.
Yeah, and now I hate cooking so much. Like,
yeah, I do too. But Eunji, I mean, think about it. You're still a baby in college, but you were already cooking. You were already budgeting.
That is so interesting. But yeah, I think those are valid points to think about. And like, even with that right now, like you miss it, and it's okay to miss it. But do you think you would still choose this job for what it is for you and your type, or like your personality and what that entails? I
think I'm most likely it's a yes to that question, but I think I'm still exploring it, and it's still very unstable.
I guess like even I don't know if it translates into other worlds, but like for teaching at least, Teach for America was a 2-year commitment, but they say like you can't master, which master is is a definition that's kind of hard to define, but you can't master teaching, or you can't really feel comfortable in teaching unless you've taught for 3 years. And so I don't know if that's like with you say content creating has been 2 years, and not that you would master it in 3 years, but like I think then you would experience the fuller like life cycle of maybe what a day in the life of a content creator could look like. I don't know. So I feel like I would ask you this again next year.
Oh, that's very encouraging for me to hear.
Yeah, right? Because like, or even like, I think then I heard, since we're a part of church plant that actually came out of your church, right? I think the pastors had said like, we're a church plant phase for 3 years, right? Like, and so right now we're even in 2 years, and there's like new things that arise this year that didn't happen last year, and certain things like first year is very like, oh, this is exciting. Like, what can I do? Like whatever in a certain way. So I would be curious at the end of 3 years, what does that church look like? Or what does that content creator look look like, or whatever profession you choose, because then you've kind of had the chance to fully own it. And while you can still grow after that, like that experience marinates.
Let me tell you something, I'm going to hold on to that. By then the next job, be like, this is my life. I know it. I'm so sure it's amazing.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Okay. I think something I learned of how 아까워, because I kind of wanted to like not make that word such a thing in my life, because I don't think that's a generational word, or like it's a cultural word like Korean. Like it makes me feel so much lack all the time, right? And so like I always try to like think against it, or like I totally understand like with the food and the money, and like I can feel that pain or the guilt, but then I also try to like tell myself, no, it's okay or whatever. But I learned how it comes up in different ways of like my friends, they chipped in to get me this couple hundred massage gift card. Mm-hmm. And I don't really get massages just for myself, or if I do, it's like on a Groupon or something. And so this place was kind of expensive, and I went and I really enjoyed it. And I was able to go twice, because Matt took my third one. But, right, like I really liked it because I like massages that are really hard and that like just like get you really good. And there was one point, this is like a Thai combo massage, but there was one point where it hurt so badly. Like it actually really, really hurt. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, but if I say something, then she's going to take away. It would be too 아까워 of me to tell her that this one part hurts, because what if she takes away the rest? And then it's 아까워 for my experience, because I'm not getting my money's worth, because if this is an expensive place, I should be getting the full strength of this masseuse, because that means I'm getting my full potential or whatever. And I was like so intrigued by my mindset, because like I was willing to be quiet when it really, really, really hurt. And I did it twice, because I went there twice, because I really liked like 90% of it. But that one area, because they're like stepping on me or something, you know? And I realized like that's a way 아까워 still plays a part, where like maybe I'm too scared to speak up on it, or I don't want to offend them, or I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't want to take away from what the experience should be because of that one small thing. So I don't know.
Actually, honestly, personally, I understand it, but I don't relate to it as hard, because I think my parents, they're pretty stereotypical Korean immigrant parents, but I think they're a little bit more modern. Like my dad, in just certain cultural mindsets, they're a little bit less Korean. I dealt with the same thing about food and money and stuff, but it's not as deep as that. But what I was going to say is I understand that even better because of my husband. Because
actually, oftentimes I feel like him and I
mean, his is to the point, he would say that exact same thing, that sentiment. Like, and he says that to me, I'm like, but isn't the less painful one still worth the money? He's like, no, if I'm paying this, I better come out freaking
like your body went to war.
But it's bad, isn't it? It hurts you. Another example is when we first got married, it's two of us, okay? I mean, he's a big guy. Sure, like I like eating, but we don't need to buy everything from Costco. We're not feeding like 3 kids. Like we don't need like a whole bag of onions and this whole thing. And so it took a huge learning curve for him, because he was definitely more that mindset. And he also calls it, and I think you're very like this too, which is optimizing. So if you drive over here, then you should also stop by here, because it's so 아까워. Like, 아까워, you're already there. Like, and then you're gonna have, if you want to come back, you have to drive back again. So I'm a little less. I'm like, let's just drive back another time when we don't have to rush. And he's like, okay, well, we're here, so let's maximize the opportunity. And so I think his family is maybe a little bit more Korean similar, in that sense.
It's so interesting, because I didn't think I was super Korean. And then you would say something that's like, oh, you're pretty Korean. I'm like, you're the one that talks in Korean all the time and like dating fobs and stuff, whatever.
Culturally, I think.
But like, I think that was so eye-opening, because I didn't realize till my 20s that, oh, I have some things that, you know, I am proud of, but also I do have to unlearn just, you know, as we create our own identity here. But that's so funny. Yeah.
Or, you know, it's the types of, I don't know if your mom was ever into gardening. My mom was not. But I also know a lot of Korean ajumas. It's so 아까워 or wasteful to buy 깻잎, which is like a Korean.
Because you can make it.
You can just grow it. Or there's, I've heard that type of sentiment too, where it's,
oh, that's so interesting.
아까워, I can just, you know, do this and that. Or I can make, kimchi jjigae at home.
Yeah. Because you can do it for cheaper and better, probably more delicious.
Yeah, but I'm also like, okay, but you're tired.
Yeah.
So
but then sometimes like they don't do it. And I'm like, wait, but you said
yeah, that's true.
I really want it. You said it, but then
you said ako, don't get it.
And then I'm just waiting because then I'm asking that person to sacrifice their time and whatever.
Exactly.
But all I wanted was that thing. But okay, it also comes down to like my energy. And I think Matt does this too, where like we won't go upstairs unless we're carrying like everything, or like we won't,
the
like
2 trips thing.
Yeah, it's like so akawa to do that. Like I believe he has that mindset when it comes to those things. So, but in a sense, by being akawa, right, in that, it translates to laziness, right? Because like you're not doing something, that one thing, because you say you have to do 5 things. And I'm very much like that. And I think when you were talking about how you have to go to 3 places, right? Because you're in that area. I'm always like that. And then I'm tired by the end of the day. I come home, I'm mad because I like didn't make it to this last place that wasn't even on my original agenda. Or I don't make it to the original place I was supposed to go to because I saw this one on the way and I have to get the boys by a certain time or whatnot. I am curious, like, how to reframe that where we are maximizing, we're trying to be efficient. I think efficient is that word as well. But then there's a fine line when that turns into laziness and laziness for you or laziness for the other person that you promised that outcome for, but you're not going to do it yet until X, Y, and Z can also be done with it.
I didn't think about the other side of akawa being lazy from the perspective of like a Korean culture person, let's say, where you are being lazy. If you're there, you need to buy all those things. I know you're tired, but you're there. Like, and I've almost accepted that I'm lazy.
No, I'm trying to say, akawa people can get lazy. Like the people that say they're akawa can get lazy. Yeah, I didn't think you understood what I said.
Oh yeah, I think you went a little too deep there for him.
Like.
Wait, are you saying?
Because you don't
use the same example. You're saying it almost makes you lazy because you're like, well, I don't have time to hit all those 5 places, so I won't even go at all.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Because instead of doing that one thing,
you're like, you
want to maximize,
store,
right?
If I'm go, then I should do that. So I'm just not going to go.
Yes. I was trying to say that with like a home example,
like
but it's like if we're talking about that example of driving somewhere, because you know you can do all of that, then you're like, it's not like you're not going to do it, but you're going to save it for a day when you can do it all. Because like in your head, you're thinking, I can do it all, right? So then a week passes because you don't have a 2-hour chunk. You only had a 10-minute chunk to do that one thing. But because then that told your mind you need to do all 5 things, you're trying to find a 2-hour chunk, right? But you don't have that. So then you wait till a month later. So then that one thing didn't get done. And then that can create a different effect of like, why didn't that get done? Especially if you have a family or something like that. And so that I feel like can be this fine line of laziness, even though it's not with the laziness intent, if that makes sense. I don't know.
That's interesting that you put it that way because it can also really correlate to perfectionism. I think.
Yeah.
Because
it's
like if I translate it to my job, I made this video. I've been working on it, let's say, and it's midnight. I'm tired. But if I just make this one other edit, it could be even more perfect. And then, oh crap, I noticed this part. So if I make one more edit, and the reverse of that, I have an idea. But it's like, oh, but I can only really execute that idea this way. And it's in order for it to be a perfect video, I would need more help or more equipment or more this. And that's too expensive. But it's like your perfectionism is going to make me not make that video.
Yeah.
And that's what I actually do actively try to fight against that. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
Especially the more views I get and the more of a audience that I'm growing, it's harder because I want to like impress everyone and I want to do better. But it'll just trap you. Yeah. And you just end up making less videos or to your point, more lazy. You just end up on the couch wondering why like you don't like any of your ideas or so in that sense I can relate to that for sure. It kind of translates to that perfectionism where I do think, let's say if I take into consideration my mom or dad's mindset and they're making the video, if I stop at a certain point, they're like, 너무 아까워, it's too 아까워, like go a little further, make it better. It's like you're already here, but sometimes it's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something a lot of us need to hear because I think we have done active work to not make it a thing with the money or the food aspect, which is like the stereotypical ways akawa is used. But like many Korean words, there's like so many layers that go with these words. And so it's like, where is it still living in your mindset? And it's okay to have that. But then how is that stopping you? Or how is that creating inaction versus action, which sometimes is necessary to act on your imperfect little decisions or imperfect little ideas that you have, just to continue kind of growing in whatever goals you do have as well. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's an active part of the brain that you have to fight against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I feel like, when you are in town, I also feel like, these days are so 아까워 too. So it could be used in a good way, in a sense of like, I don't get to spend many days with you, like we only get maybe max a handful of days a year, which is so different from sleeping on the same bed back in college, which is such a special season. And so I think even in the past, I used to be like, oh, 아까워, like, oh, I wish we did this maybe even, or sometimes when I would visit you, somehow Hana will also be there in that same trip. In my head, I was thinking like, 아까워, like I came here, like my time for my best friend, and this dude who is always causing mayhem, is also here, and I just have to have a good time together, Yeah. But at the same time, like I've also learned to just like take what it is, take it for what it is. Is that the saying? And like, I think even when that shifted, like I didn't think of our friendship as a lack, because I think that's what I thought. Like it's 아까워 because we're not growing together like I thought we would.
We're not maximizing.
Exactly. We're not maximizing on friendship. And for me, who is a friendship person, even like you said, that could be dangerous because in my head, if I don't feel that natural constant growing in trust or experiences or like life things, then I'll feel sad and I'll feel like, oh, maybe we're not best friends or maybe we're not as close as I thought and get into my head. And I definitely had that season, which you did not. And I would come to you about it. I'd be like, hey, this is how I feel. And you'd be like, oh, really? I think we're great. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I remember a couple of those conversations.
Yeah, but I think now in our 30s, I don't feel that, right? And so like, I think in whatever area 아까워 might come up for you, and as an Enneagram too, I think it comes up in relationships a lot. I think it's to welcome that thought, like what areas can you actually work on and what areas don't you have control over? Because if you don't, like you have to just let that go and continue to be grateful for what is in front of you and the times. And so
I feel like this is my reading of you, but do you think kids, because I heard when you become a parent, you're always so humbled because you realize you just can't control everything and it can't be perfect. Do you think you let go a lot of like your maximizing mindset whenever maybe you had Jaden?
Maybe it's all projected just to Matt.
With Matt?
Maybe it's all projected just to Matt.
Well, because I view, not just with our friendship, but just your life, I feel like you've let go of a lot of the lacking mindset. That's my vision. I could be wrong, but compared to your teens and your 20s that I knew.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it still comes alive in a lot of ways that are different. Like I said, lacking in financial contribution or stuff like that because of the 아까워 with the career I chose or things like that, And so I think that's definitely home-centered or marriage-centered. And so I think that's what I'm trying to still reflect on and give up to God too, of like, what can't I control? Because that's in my face, sometimes I feel like I can control it, right? But I can't. But thank you. I'll receive that compliment.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you any more compliments, any more that you want. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
And one thing I like is when you're here and we do plan to have podcast conversations, I love how we just like never talk and then we just like wait until the record button hits. And I think that's like in a way
Save
of like,
juice.
yeah. And like, it's 아깝잖아. We like just talk about it for us too. Like it's meant for here, like the organic reactions, the like authenticity of the conversation,
so funny.
Rather than like if we talked about it before, then if we talk about it again, when it seems fake, and then two, it's like more rehearsed in a sense, but I feel like we get each other in that sense. Yeah. So it's very refreshing.
Yeah. For those of you listening, I walked into this house, said maybe 5 words to each other.
I literally nodded at the water. I said, that's for you. Nodded at the water.
And then we hit record and we started talking.
So, in those ways, it's nice to be understood by a fellow friend of mine. But thank you so much for sharing your insight. Do you want to share anything else before we end the episode?
No, this was really fun. I had a great time. Also, honestly, so Unji let me know the prompt and that she wanted to talk about this word a few days ago.
Yeah.
And it had been stewing, and it really made me think a lot about, oh my gosh, this is why I feel so, I don't have to maximize my time all the time and always feel guilty that I'm not making another video. Yeah, it was very interesting for me to think about and ponder too. So it was really helpful, actually.
Yeah, so if you're listening, I would encourage you guys to think about what are some areas maybe that you tell yourself you have to maximize. What are areas where you feel like, oh, 아깝다, 아까워. And like, if you need that, then yes, you have to do that no matter what. But if there is room to kind of let go of that feeling, like, would you be able to, or what would that look like? So that would be a ponder for you on the other end of this podcast.
Yes, please ponder along.
And we are going to go eat together because we haven't done that in a long time either. So that's quite exciting. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Kohler Commentary. Bye.